Where are you, God? Where are you? Why have you not stopped this? As I continue to watch the news and I read the paper and I see little kids dying places and war still happening and fighting still happening around in families, I wonder many times in my own life, where are you, Jesus? Where are you when you say that you will come and you will reign in this world? Do you ever wonder that? I know that's hard to confess because you're in church this morning, right? And you're thinking, I never worry. And maybe right now in your life, you aren't in that situation to where you have to worry because things are going good. Life is good. You're still getting your checks. You're still getting pays. You're still getting your bills paid. But I want to share about a story I had this weekend. A story that I sat with a mother and a father and their little 3-year-old son. And the cool thing about going back to the same place 3 years in a row, and I don't know if you guys experienced it, but people started to remember who we were. People started to remember that we were the people from Ohio, and I was the pastor, and I was the one that did the talking and the stories that we shared. And there was this one, I was across the room, and you could tell he knew he remembered me. Now, I wish I could tell you I remembered his name as I walked to him, but he came up to me and said, "How you doing, Jeff?" So I was kind of laid off the thing. So I'm thinking, no, I'm Chip, and he's good, and I'm Randy. So we got that all situated, and so I was excited, but he was so excited to see that we came back, and I was excited to see for a 3rd year in a row this same guy came. And I can remember last year, his little kid who now is a year older. There is a perk for the mission that we do down there that we're going back every year, that we're able to see these kids. Now, I'd like to tell you that we took 243 gifts or whatever, that 243 families showed up, but they didn't. There was probably 60 gifts left over when we were done, and as we were talking to Gary and Lily, they said some of these gifts will never get picked up. But what I want to focus on is this one guy who I sat with. And as I sat and he told me his story about how he had to work, and I said, "How are things going?" He said, "They're going okay." He said, "I'm surviving." I said, "Are you doing better than last year?" And he said, "Well, we are, but the coal mines aren't doing as well as they used to do." Which I never understood. That's how these people make their money. They work in coal mines. They put their lives at risk. And it's either that or the drugstore, because there's nothing else around in this area that we go to. So it's either that or the grocery store that's about this big that hires 10 people. Other than that, there's nowhere else. There's not 5 industries in this area that we serve. But he continued to share with me that life would be okay. He said, "I remember last year that we came here and it felt so good to get these presents, but also to hear about how we are loved by this God that's amazing." And he said, "And I hope as we continue to come, the kids that I bring, my child continues to know at least that God loves them. That no matter what happens, no matter where the situation in life is, God will love them." And as I continued to sit there and talk to him, there was tears coming down his face. Because then he began to share with me that he did have loss this year too. And he lost some of his family members. And as we continued to get deeper in this conversation, he did share that there was times this last year that he thought God has left him. He thought that he was abandoned by God and God wasn't there. He felt that the Spirit of God was not being favorable towards him. My heart wept, as I know many of yours would too as you hear this story. That reminds me of our text today. When John heard in prison what the Messiah was doing, he sent people to say, "Are you truly the one, or do we need to keep waiting? Are you truly the one, or do we need to keep waiting?" John the Baptist was doubting, even while he was in prison, if Jesus was truly the one. And Jesus' response is, "I'm the one. I'm the one." This guy, as he continued to tell me the story, he lifted up that this was the party, the celebration of his Christmas year. that he knew that we were the true ones that came there. Because we didn't ask for money, we didn't ask for anything in favor, in return for what we gave them. And we gave them love. You gave them love. Now, not all of you can make the trip, and we, the 15 of us went, we were just the hands that were able to go that weekend. But you were the true ones in this world. You were the ones that Jesus talked about when he said that the poor will have good news brought to them. Brothers and sisters, you were part of that. You helped bring that good news to these little kids, this good news to these people that might have had a rough time. As I do preach here, I preach down there a little bit, and as I walked out into the crowd, I said to them, I know that all of you here are probably having a rough time. And most of them shook their heads. Most of them shook their heads. Either rough times financially, rough times just in their families. But all I said to them by the end was, you have a God who sent us here to tell you one thing, and that you're loved. And the faces just changed. The faces changed because they finally realized that even though that they might not feel worthy, they have a God who loved them. You were part of that. You were Jesus for these people. I got the privilege to go this weekend. And I know some of you would love to go, but you can't. But it's a mission that we continue to do for 20 years at Holy Trinity. That we continue to share this good news with people who need to hear it. The other amazing thing that happened this weekend is that we have 3 churches that come together. And Cornerstone's they're up in Medina. And they bring these people who are just full of excitement and energy. Our theology is so different you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's totally different. But when it comes to the purpose of being Christ in the world, it didn't matter to them. And it didn't matter to the 15 people that we took, or the other 25 Lutherans that went. Because we were there to bring the good news to the poor. And the poor isn't financially always, it's poor in spirit. It's poor in many different things. Some of you are probably poor today. And you need this worship to be lifted up, to be reminded that you are loved by God. That it's because of you Christ came into this world. It's because of you God said, I send my Son so that you could be forgiven. You could be set free. Does that excite you as much as it did that little boy who Montana shared that had a ribbon on his present? Does it? Because if it does, take that home with you and share that good news. Be that bearer of good news to your families who aren't here with you. Be that good news and people to the neighbor who is hurting some way, so that they can come and celebrate the birth of Christ as well. There's one last story, because I want you all to know that I'm as guilty as everybody else in here. Sometimes life, and when Karen Wanzig says there's a schedule, we should follow it. And so I knew that I had to be back at noon because things had to get rolling, and I had to perform at 1, not perform, but we had to start at 1. And so we went out to this family, and Hannah and Bill and I were there, and 4 or 5 other people from Cornerstone. And we went to this family, we delivered this basket, I knocked on the door, and you never know what you don't get. Here's the address. The last house on the left past the gas station, it's blue. That's the address you get. So we're looking for it, and you get a phone number, but it only has 4 numbers in it. So, I mean, it doesn't get a lot of information. So I go up to this house, I knock, and dogs are barking and things like that, and I'm thinking, I ain't going in there. And so she sneaks out, and she's sitting there, and her name is Wanda. And I said, Wanda, we're here from Holy Trinity and Christ in Cornerstone of Medina. We just have a gift basket for you. Thank you so much. And I said, well, that's great. So we give her the gift basket, and there's 8 of us standing there. And I asked Pastor Mike to say a prayer, and he says a prayer, and I'm thinking it's time to go. So Hannah, me, and Bill, good Lutherans, we follow rules, right? We go back to our car, we get in, and we sit there. And these people from Cornerstone, that lady sat there for 15 minutes and talked to this other lady. And I'm thinking in my mind, I got to get back or Karen's going to yell at me. I got to get back, and I got to get back. And I finally said, I didn't know what to do. Do I get back out of the car and go hear this story? Or do I stay in the car? Do I get out of the car, get into the car? Do I go be the light of Christ, or do I say, hurry up, let's go? We have a schedule to keep. I learned this weekend that even though our schedules say we have to be certain places, take time and listen to someone's story this Christmas. That's my my plea to you. Take time and listen to your kid's story. Take time and hear your neighbor's story, because maybe they'll be the Christ to you. That lady, Wanda, was the Christ to that group of people standing there. Listen to the stories. We are the people of stories. We are the church that hears the story of Christ coming into this world for you. Brothers and sisters, you are loved. And I thank you for all the gifts that you were able to provide for West Virginia, and the food baskets and everything. So it's in your name that we took them. And I am grateful that I'm able to serve you in that capacity. May God bless us as we continue to move forward to this Advent season, and we move towards the greatest celebration and the greatest gift of Christmas Eve. Amen.